Hello, Divine Redeemer, friends and family. Pastor Adam here, coming to you with our midweek Lenten devotion as we continue our series called Passed Over during this Lenten season, as we're looking at the book of Exodus and examining our lives. As Lent is usually a time of reflection, it's a time of penance, it's a time of turning to God, confessing our sinfulness, and receiving His grace and forgiveness. And to do that, we're going through, kind of walking through the journey of God's people before they were led out of Egypt. And this week, we come at a time where Moses is kind of dealing with the question, how can I do this? Because Moses has been called by God in Exodus chapter 4 and 5 to lead his people. But as he has been called by God, he gave a lot of excuses. He said, I can't do this, I'm slow of speech, I'm not fit to lead your people. But Moses goes anyways after God counters his objections, but he's faced with some sad news, with some news of failure, at least at this point. Because when he goes to Pharaoh, Pharaoh reacts to Moses and says, who is your God? I don't know who he is. I'm not going to let your people go. And in chapter 5, the life of God's people is made much harder as they're no longer given straw for their bricks, and they have to go out and search for the straw. And the people tell Moses, may God judge you because you have made us be a stink in the sight of Pharaoh. So Moses is probably wondering at this point, how do I do this? How do I do this, God? And that's exactly where we are left at the end of chapter 5, where Moses says these words in verses 22 and 23. Then Moses turned to the Lord and said, O Lord, why have you done evil to this people? Why did you ever send me? And we heard that last week from Pastor Seth. For since I came to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has done evil to this people, and you have not delivered your people at all. Moses was probably thinking, all right, God, you promised that you would be with me. You promised that you would lead your people, but I don't see you. Where are you? How do I do this? But as we turn to chapter 6, God doubles down on his promise. He doesn't necessarily address Moses' concerns and his complaints, but he reiterates the promise that he gave to Moses. And we hear these words in chapter 6. God spoke to Moses and said to him, I am the Lord. I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, and God Almighty, but by my name the Lord I did not make myself known to them. I also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land in which they lived as sojourners. Moreover, I have heard the groaning of the people of Israel, whom the Egyptians hold as slaves, and I have remembered my covenant. God tells Moses, and he tells his people that he remembers him. He remembers his promise. He remembers that he will be with them. And he tells Moses, go again. Tell Pharaoh to let your people go. So you see what God is doing here. What he is doing is he is turning Moses' question of maybe doubt, of questioning, how do I do this? And orienting Moses to, rather than ask the question, how do I do this? To how will God do this? How will God be with me in my life? So maybe you're going through a season this Lent where you're wondering in a situation, maybe it's with your family, maybe it's with your friends or your coworkers, maybe you've experienced something in your life that is shaking you to the core and you're wondering, God, how do I do this? How do I get through this time? But with the faith we have in God, we can know and ask the question, how will God do this? How will He be with us? How will He lead us in this life? Because even though we may not see what exactly God is going to do, we know that His promises are with us. And especially this Lenten season, as we reflect on our sinfulness, we know that the promise is that Jesus was sent for you and for me, that our forgiveness is won, and that He never will leave us nor forsake us. So whatever season you're in this Lent, I pray that as you study Exodus chapter 6, as you read this interaction and God doubling down on His promise, I hope you can see that promise that God is with you in your life just as He is with all of us who by faith trust in Him. And that's where we're going to end our devotion for this week, and I pray that gives you comfort, it gives you peace as we look to what God is doing in our lives. So God's blessings to you and your family as we continue this Lenten season. All right, bye-bye.